Welcome back, everyone, to our Let's Play series of Motorsport Manager. And we are now at the time where we've reached the final event of the season. We're going back to the Black Sea for the second time in this season, and it will be our event number 10 in the final race of the season. And it brings to mind something that I've thought multiple times. I'm not sure how many times I've actually mentioned it in the videos, but I know this is the Tier 3 series, so you have the fewest events of the three tiers. But because this is a worldwide division, meaning that we race in tracks all over the world in several different countries, it would be nice if we could get no more than one event in the 10 event series at a particular track. I think what the game has tried to do is you might go back to the same track, but they give you a little bit different variation of the track, a little different setup. But for me, I know there's a lot more than that in the game. So it'd be nice to go to a different place. And, our last track, which was in Beijing, the Chinese GP, was actually something that we voted to add in our first season to replace one of the tracks that we went to twice. So I would like to see more of that. Really haven't seen that many consequential votes of that nature. It'd be nice to see more of that. It's not the end of the world, of course, but it would be nice to have a little bit more variation instead of going back to the same tracks multiple times in a season. It's one thing, to do it if you're on a NASCAR schedule where you're running 30 plus events in a season. It's another thing entirely if you're only running 10 to go back to the same tracks, particularly on a worldwide stage as this series is. So just as a brief overview, our drivers right now are sitting very nice in the championship, 4th and 8th. And team-wise, we're now sitting in 3rd with a 4-point lead over 4th and only 9 points behind 2nd. Never dreamed we would have been nearly this high. If you remember back at the beginning of the season, I picked that we would finish in 6th. So, yeah, we're quite a bit ahead of that going into the final race. So I'm very pleased. I also want to point out up here at the top, I generally start the videos on this screen a lot of times, and that's because it gives you a general idea and overview of sort of where we are in the season and where we are in the series. So if we come up here, we've been in a position of having the best drivers for a while now. Well, now we've dropped down to 5th. And the reason for that is, well, there's a couple of reasons that are possible. The one I believe is most likely is that Rodriguez has that fever, which has dropped his stats down pretty considerably. And it's in effect for this final race as well. So just that small drop in his stats has taken us from 1st all the way down to 5th on the grid. So I find that interesting that the drivers are really, for all the teams, are packed in that tightly. I like it. I think it's a very nice piece to the puzzle for the game to add, that all the drivers are that tightly bunched together for a Tier 3 series. Now, I can definitely understand it for Tier 1 and probably Tier 2 as well, but for Tier 3 to have that, I really enjoy it. Now, you can see our car. We're 9th on the grid overall with our car, but you can see our headquarters here. Even though we have upgraded our factory and also built a facility for our gearboxes, we're still only 7th. So that tells me that obviously others are well ahead of us in this aspect as well. But you can see from the arrow here that we're pretty much about middle of the road on the grid there. Staff-wise, we are at the top of the grid. And then finally, our sponsors, this fluctuates. Sometimes we're 1st, sometimes we're farther down. Right now, we happen to be 2nd. And that's all because as you go through the season, each sponsorship deal is for a certain number of races. So as those expire and have to be renewed or replaced, you find yourself moving up and down the grid there. So I'm very pleased with all of that. One other thing I want to talk about is related to car development. And first, I wanted to go ahead and get this out of the way where they're repairing the car. All right, and of course, we've also got sponsorship deals to look at. But on this particular avenue, I know as I start to shift my thinking toward next season and the car we're going to have for next season, you can see here, there's not much. We're basically 2 stars across the board with slightly into 3 as a best case scenario. But what I'm looking for next year is, I know there is, I try not to read up too much on the game. And realistically, I don't play the game very much other than when I am recording, simply because of, real life issues and time restraints. So what you see is basically what you get with me. But I do know that there is an idea floating around out there that you can design a new part, even that you have no desire to run in a race, and make it. If we take a look at an engine, for example, if I come in and I say, look, I'm going to pick the absolute max number that I can. Well, the max number that I can, one of them would be here. I could do that. And then if I had the building unlocked, I could come down here and say, oh, that's a plus 60. And I could really load up on the potential risk that I have. But if I have no intention of using it in a race, the purpose of designing this part would be that it would be now the highest performance part in my stable going into next year, and therefore next year's performance at the beginning of the season will be based on the highest performing part from the previous season, regardless of whether or not I've actually used it in a race. Well, I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not sure if that works or not, but I don't really have any desire to do that. For one reason is because that's not the way I want to play the game. The second reason is that takes a lot of money to do. I mean, engine parts take, by the time you get the additional factors in, it takes close to $2 million. Here you'd be looking at 1.5 million or somewhere thereabouts. So it's really not worth it for me to go about it in that way. So with that out of the way, I don't intend to do any more new parts for the end of the season. It's possible we could get, new brakes done, because we're 24 days away from our next race, and it only takes 6 days there. But at this point, I'm trying to conserve money, and I'll be looking forward to next year's car. So we pretty much got what we've got there. Let's come over and take a look at our sponsorship. Now, this is, let's see, we've already got a sponsor that wants us to finish 3rd or above. We've got one for 10th or above. Let's see what our new opportunity is. Well, they want us to win, and they're going to pay us 1.5 to do so. The upfront is what I'm a little bit bummed about, because it's only 400,000. I would really have rather it been, the 1.5 million over here is the upfront payment, because I'm not going to be choosing this. There's no way I can bank on finishing first in a race at this particular juncture. So we'll go ahead and we'll take what is available to us, and you can see we're pretty set for, 3 races will be the next time that we'll do anything. So we're going to be well into next season before we get any new sponsorship. So we kind of got what we got for now. All right. Also, you can see here under sponsor level, the number 5 level star is locked out. And that's because there is a building in the HQ for that. So right now, basically, we're attracting the highest level sponsors we can for the time being. So all of that is really going as good as it can. Let's go ahead and move through. Oh, it looks like we've got an issue to deal with. Engine cooling. All right, we found a leak. Wow, look at that. So we can spend 500,000 and get it back to where it was. And then, or we can say, no, let's just go ahead and take the hit on reliability and save the money. Well, what I'm going to do is choose this option, because now what I'm going to do is, with that lowered reliability, I'm going to take my chances with getting that reliability up through the improving parts. So let's go ahead and do that. And then immediately, I'm going to come back over here to improve parts. Let's find that engine. There it is. It's down to 50%. So we're going to go ahead. 93% is plenty high there. All right. So I think, we're going to be in good shape. Now, along those same lines, you can see here, we've got this new part. I do want to get it really moving forward. So I'm in a bit of a dilemma here. Where do I go? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift over as much as I can, because I need this engine. It's way too high. I could just go back and use this one, but the difference in performance is way too much for me to just want to do that. So for the time being, I've got to get his reliability up in that engine, and then I'll try to come back over to performance, because I would really like to use that new gearbox if at all possible. All right, you can see the reliability work is done there. All right, let's see where we are. It's not quite done. Okay, we're at 90%. Now, that is perfectly good to me, because normally I wouldn't worry about it at all. about coming in here so quickly, but time is of the essence. We got 15 days before our next race, and I want to spend as much of it on getting this gearbox as high as we can, because if I can get it up as close to 171 as possible, that will get me from a 98 to a 145, and then from a 145 to as close to a 171 as we can. So the best performance we can get in that final race is what I'm interested in. So let's go ahead and move forward, and we'll keep an eye on that. Again, you can see not a whole lot going on, and which is what you would expect. All right, now we're up to 86. Only 10 days left. Let's see, our number 3 driver increases his marketability. Okay, I'll take it, even though he doesn't get a whole lot of seat time with me. Sometimes I put him in during a practice session just for that extra little bit of income. All right, so let's go ahead. We got 10 days left. And all right, so nothing is happening until then. The next thing on the docket will be our travel. And with that in mind, let's come in here and see what they've done. All right, so we're up to 128. Okay, so that's good. You know, not quite as high as I would have preferred, but we had some reliability things that we had to deal with. So 128, not as high as the 145, but it will be higher than the 98, so we'll have reason to use that, and the reliability is good as well. Okay, with that in mind, let's go ahead and come in, and I'm going to go ahead and still go with the 3rd or above. Not that much difference in the bonus anyway. Okay, let's go ahead and choose that one. Regardless, we're going to make 215,000. It will put us up to about 5.7 million here, which is a nice chunk of change. And then, of course, if we can get that bonus, then we'll be looking even better. Let's go under the part fitting, and let's see what we want to do here. All right, so the part that we're going to be looking for is the gearbox. So we jump from a 98 to a 128 on Raphael's car. Okay, I like the sound of that. And with that out of the way, I believe we are now ready to head to the track. So we just got finished with practice, and I must say I'm very pleased with the practice session we had. And the biggest reason for that is in going back and using setups from previous trips that we've made to this track has turned out to be, you know, a great base setup to use because I find that they're very similar from time to time as we come to the track. Not exact, but very close. So we've got our performance bonuses here, race trim and soft tires both at 10% for each car. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the setup for each car. You can see, I mean, this was base setup that I've used before, and it got me to 97%. So, and I was able to increase on that just a touch. So very happy there at 98%. Of course, he's going to be coming from toward the back, starting in 17th. We've got a 15-lap race. And if we come in and look at fuel, you can see 6 laps. Now, of course, I could conserve and make that 7 laps, but of course, it's still not going to get us there on one stop, which I would consider doing with one of the cars if it were realistic. It's not in this case, so we can move on from that. So then it becomes a question of, do we go for 2 stops or 3 stops? Part of me is very tempted to split it up and have one driver on each strategy, but realistically, I'm not sure 3 stops makes sense for us. I think if we had one of the top cars on the grid, then I think it could be a perfectly viable option. But at this point, we're not fast enough, I don't think, to make that work. So I feel much better going with the 2-stop option, which means that we're going to have to run 5-lap, 5-lap, and 5-lap stints. So, all right, let's go ahead and make sure everything is good there. We'll come over to Raphael. And let's see, we're at, you can see I used a little bit of a variation from the base setup there. It did not work out for him to start with. And then we were able to get him up to 95% going forward. So I'm very happy with that. And same thing here. We're going to use the soft tires and max fuel. Okay, with that in mind, let's go to driver strategy. And first things first, we're going to go ahead and push the engines, but not quite as to the max level. And I'm also going to go ahead and have them push because from practice, it didn't appear to overheat the tires to push. But we'll see how that goes again for the race. So we're looking for a podium finish, and if we do, we'll be rewarded very nicely with 1.3 million. I also need to correct something that I had told you earlier in the video about Raphael and him having, I can't remember if it was a virus or I think it was just fever that he had, which greatly reduced his driving traits. Well, that was for in the number of weeks, not the number of races. So he's fine now. I got caught up in thinking that, it was for 3 weeks, but I was thinking 3 races. So he's perfectly fine now. So we're ready to go on that. And both of our drivers should be in very good shape for the race, with the exception of the fact that we're going to be starting in the back. All right. So as we get everything up on the grid, looks like everybody is pretty much starting on the soft tires, a few medium tires here and there. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're at 13th and 17th. We'll follow Rodriguez for now. Oh, wow, that was a terrible start for him, and he's immediately going straight to the back. Let's hope we don't get a message that says he has some sort of damage. So far, so good there. But, yeah, we're definitely falling straight to the back at the beginning. Again, we've seen that before. That's because we have a slower car. This is pretty much where our car belongs based on speed, but we do have some excellent drivers, so that makes up for it, and that's why I'm not too terribly worried about it. The other thing I'm doing is I'm really focused not so much on the laps right now, because obviously I want to do as well as we can at the beginning of the race here, but where we're really going to have an opportunity to make some real positions up is through pit stop cycles. Okay, these cars, as is the case with basically any race car, but particularly with a Formula One style of car, it's so dependent on downforce and aero for grip that by either coming in early or staying out later than those around you, you can pick up some clean air, and that's where you can really make up lap time. So it's not really about passing cars on track, which our cars seem to be very inept at doing. At the current time, it's really all about getting clean air so that you can run the best laps that you can. Because when you're in a crowd, the aero is not good, and you're basically having to run an abbreviated type of race and stint simply because you don't have any clean air. Now, pit stops, you can see, have already started. We're up to 8th and 9th, but we really don't have the clean air I was looking for. Let's hope that we can increase that a little bit. Oh, so I just saw it, and if you weren't paying attention very closely, I usually miss these things, but we saw a car take a header into the barrier there just as we went through that corner, turn 1 there, in fact. So we've got a crash. We've just passed by pit lane, so there's no opportunity to come in right now. But what I do want to do is go ahead and turn down everything. Yes, he's not taking any orders from me, blah, blah, blah. So let's go ahead and turn everything down. Again, it allows me to make the changes here, so I'm really not sure if that means that he's not making any adjustments or what the deal is. So, but regardless, we are in 2nd and 4th, and I did not get to see how many teams were able to take advantage of the pit stops. Now, obviously, they were in the middle of their pit stop cycles anyway, but let's say, looks like he is going to have to come in. He must have flat spotted the tires, and I missed the message over here looking at different things. So, all right, so at this point, it was about time for us to come in anyway, so we're just going to have to bite the bullet. The bad part about this is that they're going to be coming in at the same time. All right, so we'll put on the new tires. So the first break in the race really didn't go our way, but we'll keep moving forward. Let's see. All right, everything good there. I do not have, if you notice the risk level here, I don't have that bonus active for fast pit stops. So I instead went with the bonus for the tire performance. All right, so I believe everything is ready to go for him. We'll go ahead and set up the same thing here. Max out the fuel. And part condition, yeah, it looks like we're going to be okay there. And same thing here. Okay, so let's go ahead and focus on Rodriguez. And let's see, let's go ahead and pause so I can spin the camera around. And the big thing I'm going to be looking for is, okay, how long does he have to wait? Okay, that wasn't a terrible amount of time. All right, and we'll come out in 7th for him and 13th so far for Sergio. Okay, so not the best result, but not the end of the world either. The biggest thing is we're conserving right now. The safety car says 1 lap left. So we're trying to conserve our tires and fuel as much as we can. And the reason we want to do that is, of course, it's obvious why you would want to conserve your tires, but the reason why we would want to conserve fuel is because the more I can conserve right now, then that either will enable us to move our last pit stop deeper into the race, making the final run shorter, or we can try to push harder toward the end of the race. So it gives us some options, and that's really what it's all about for us, is getting options for the end of the race and giving us the opportunity to maybe pick up some spots there. All right, so we're at 5th and 11th now. We picked up a couple of spots for each driver. And again, as we get, if we look at the mini map in the top right hand corner of the screen, as I get closer into this area, as we get closer to that final corner, I'll want to really bump up and go back to the strategy settings that I want to use. Okay, and now as they start to accelerate, I'm going to go ahead and set things back to where I want them. Okay, now here we go. Oh wow, it looks like we've got pit stops underway as the green flag flies again. That is very interesting. You can see several cars come in. All right, we can use that to our advantage, because what we can do is try to gap those guys and help us for our final pit stop. Maybe we can come out ahead of all of them. It may not come into play anyway, but it sure would be nice to have that option. Now, if we look at what's going on, looks like the tire heat is still very low. Of course, we just come back to green. We're up to 5th and 7th with the 2 drivers. So all is going good so far. Okay, so far so good. Looks like Sergio has dropped a position. That's not the end of the world, though. Okay, the interesting thing is I'm not seeing any tire heat that's really coming into the tires. I don't want to push them really any harder for the simple reason that you risk a lot of flat spots there. But there's some interesting pit strategy going on here that I'm not quite sure about for the most part. All right, so we're at a point now. Let's see. All right, so what I'm going to do is it's time to keep these guys from coming into the pits at the same time, because they're basically at the same level of fuel. I'm going to pit one of them now, which would be our normal cycle, and I'm going to do that with Sergio because he's around the most traffic. So I'm going to go ahead and set up his pit stop. And once again, we're going to set up there. So we're showing 6 laps of fuel, 5 laps remaining. We need that extra because we're pushing the engine. So everything looks good there. Our parts, for the most part, look really good. Let's see if going to a fast setup, that would actually help. I'm going to go ahead and take the risk there. All right, and let's go ahead and set up that pit stop. You can see he's in traffic. So we're going to have him come in first. And in the meantime, Rodriguez is out in the lead. So I'm going to have him really push the car here. And I'm going to have him be on attack mode and try to make up all the time he can while he is in clean air. Because if you look at the mini map here, he's got clean track, perfectly clean track ahead of him. So now we've got one in the pits, and we'll set up our next pit stop. Fuel options. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and do it, but now I've got much more fuel than I need. So what I'm going to do for that is use the opportunity to turn our engine up to the highest level. If I think it can take it, we're at 69% of the engine, so I think we're good there. All right, and I'm going to go back to balance because, let's see, I would love to do fast, but that is a huge amount of risk. So I'm going to go ahead and stay where we are. I think we can make up some time with our fuel. All right, so far so good. Let's see, we come out in 14th with Sergio. We're running really low on fuel here, down to 0.5. But yeah, we're coming into the pits now. Okay, with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and back off of this but I'm going to change this to overtake. Okay, now it's showing excess fuel here for the time being for Sergio, but I don't believe that's going to be the case as we get down toward the end. Again, we'll find out as we get closer. All right, so we're coming out. Let's see, fourth. Looks like fifth is going to be coming by soon. Sixth. All right, so we come out in fifth. Okay, now we're back to sixth. Let's see how the tire heat does since we are burning the maximum amount of fuel. So far, so good. A little worried about Sergio's tire usage here. That is a little bit higher than I would like, but we're down to 3 laps remaining. All right, 3.74. That's good for Sergio in his fuel remaining because that's going to put him down to almost running out at the checkered flag. So we're running 4th and 7th. Rodriguez is doing very well. 3rd place is definitely within striking distance here. And we're making the move now. Didn't quite get it done. 2 laps remaining. Okay, at this point, let's see. Yes, we are running 4th and 7th, so we've crossed the flag for 2 laps remaining for him. We are very close, and I'm going to go ahead and turn up the wick on him now. And let's go ahead and push as hard as we can. This is going to be extremely close. I mean, I think we're perfectly fine with Rodriguez, but I'm not quite sure about Sergio. Okay, we picked up 3rd. Now we're in line for that bonus. Let's see how things work out for that final lap. Okay, we're far enough behind. I don't think we're going to be able to catch 1 or 2. Okay, tire heat looks good. All right, so now, this is going to be very close. In fact, I'm going to slow this down a little bit because I am definitely worried about Sergio making it. So we pushed as long as we could, but I don't feel comfortable pushing it any farther because if we run out of fuel, that is a huge drop in the number of places. We're running 3rd and 2nd, so we'll come home 3rd. There, let's see how Sergio is able to come home. So he comes home in 7th. Excellent. That is, actually it's saying 2nd. Okay, so I have to go back to the replay on that one because I missed how I don't know if the 2nd place car ran out of fuel or maybe had some sort of damage or something like that, but that's even better. So we were able to come home with both cars in great finishing position. All right, so if we take a look here at our pit stops, Rodriguez was able to stay out that extra lap, get the clean air, in some cases maybe 2 extra laps, and get that clean air. That's what propels us to run better lap times. Still not as fast as those around us and definitely not as fast as the leaders, but those few extra tenths here and there enable you to leapfrog guys on the track. So when you come back out, instead of coming back out in, say, 15th or 16th, you're coming back out in 10th or 11th, maybe 12th. So an excellent result for us here. Now we got to get through scrutineering. Let's go ahead. We have a risk of medium. Ouch. So they got us. All right, so they got us on the gearbox. Man, I hate to see that. So let's see what the penalty is. It's 2 positions and $100,000. I'm not so much worried about the $100,000 as I am the 2 positions because right now I don't know whose car that is on. Let's see. Okay, it was on Sergio's car. And the reason I was more worried about it is because the 2 positions don't really hurt us for Sergio. We go from 7th to 9th. But I was worried about losing that podium and the bonus for Rodriguez. All right, so not the end of the world there. I'm not sure exactly how they figure the penalties. You know, I know some are for like 8 places that you lose there, 10 places. So I would have to assume that that is based off of the risk that you're taking. So if you're taking extremely high risk, then you stand to lose more positions, I would assume. In our case, we had low risk on either car, but we had a couple of parts in there that made our risk a little bit higher. So 2nd and 9th, that is no problem whatsoever. So we get another great finish and another podium in our final race of the year. Let's see what that does for our positions. Now what that does is driver championship standings. It moves Rodriguez. He's able to leapfrog Sergio and get into 4th with Sergio falling to 5th. So a great result there. And if we look at our team standings, oh, that is huge for us. We're able to leapfrog second, and we come in second in the team championship. Now, obviously, you want to finish as high as you can, but the other thing that does for us is that the higher you finish in the championship standings, the bigger the piece of the pie you get as far as money goes for the end of the year. So now we're in the second position, so we look to have a much larger piece of the pie than we normally would have. So an excellent result. I can't imagine things going a whole lot better. You know, obviously I'd love to have both cars on the podium, but really this is a tremendous result for us and a job well done for both the drivers and all of the crew members on the team. Let's take a quick look here and see how things come out. The fitness, wow, Sergio, something happened. I'm not exactly sure. This may be a randomized event or something that I missed during the race, but his morale is at 100%. But you can see his fitness dropped huge. Again, not sure why that happened, but it did happen. Thankfully, this is the last race of the year, so it means that we'll have the entire off season for this to run its course, and hopefully that will be gone and out of the way before the next season starts. Morale here is also great for Raphael, and you can see how his personality traits, or driving traits rather, increased there. Then we come over to the chairman's happiness. We came in second. Hard to imagine they're not too happy with that. We're at our 90% happiness, and marketability goes up yet again. All right, and finally, our money comes in at 1.267 million, which takes us now to 6.7 million. So a really great end to the season, a great final race. And so as we finish up the video, I'm going to finish up with the team standings because this is a great result for us. 13 full points above third place. And we were quite a bit behind first, but nothing's going to dampen my excitement now. This is a great result, a great season for us, and I look forward to bigger and better things in season 3 in the European Racing Series. Thank you very much for joining me, not just for this series, but for all the series that we have on our Knee Pit Gaming channel. And stay tuned for more Motorsport Manager.